Hey friends, we are live. We are going to have an important conversation tonight about that 6-week holy grail appointment postpartum where you check in with your healthcare provider. They might ask you for some details about how you are doing postpartum. They might do an internal assessment. They might assess your C-section scar, see how things are doing. But the biggie is that they might tell you that you are able to return to exercise. So this is what I want to talk about. What is that 6-week postpartum assessment with your healthcare provider useful for? And also, what is that appointment not for? So by no means throughout this conversation do I want you to feel like you should not go to that appointment. You absolutely should go to that appointment. But I also want you to have expectations for what you're going to do with that information. I want you to have a plan with how you are going to respond to the information that you are given. And I want you to know where to go after that 6-week postpartum checkup. Here's my concern, that 6-week postpartum checkup is going to lead us to believe that the healing is mostly over and mostly done, that the bulk of the healing is done at 6 weeks and we're good to go. We're good to return back to exercise at that point. Perhaps that the pelvic floor and the core are in top-notch condition. The C-section scar is done with healing and we're just good to move on. It's like we're not postpartum anymore at 6 weeks. We've done all this healing in that time period. They tell us we're okay. And then we just kind of forget about everything our body is still doing and has done up until that point. Okay, if you're new, my name is Jessie Mundell. I am a prenatal and postnatal fitness specialist. I coach pregnant women and moms all around the world in strength training exercise, lots of core and pelvic floor rehabilitation type work that we do as well. If you have questions as we're going through, please do post and comment. I will be able to see them on the screen. All right, that 6-week postpartum check-in. It is a basic check-in with your healthcare provider to follow up postpartum, simply to see how you are doing, how baby is doing. Again, they might assess your physical body. They might do an internal vaginal assessment if you gave birth vaginally. They might assess your C-section scar to see how that is healing. Those things are so important. They might ask you about your mental health, how you are doing, feeling, functioning in your life, how you feel taking care of baby. These things are vital and so important. I want you to give them so much information as as you feel comfortable with at that appointment. Even if they don't ask for it, you can offer up any information you want, anything that you are feeling, and they might be able to then direct you to another healthcare provider who could help you in, say, an area that you might be feeling like you need more support in. That 6-week checkup is not the end of your healing point. It does not mean that your body is functioning as it was even during pregnancy or pre-pregnancy in terms of your core and pelvic floor function. Okay, so that assessment, really vital to get an overall check-in with your health. That check-in does not mean that it is back to the races, so to speak. It does not mean that probably high intensity exercise or heavy weightlifting is now the right step. It does not mean that the traditional mom and baby boot camp where we see box jumps, lots of crunches, sit-ups, tons of push-ups and planks, it likely does not mean that you are now safe, ready to go into those types of classes. Those workouts are highly unlikely to be appropriate for your body at this time. This is not to say that you cannot return back to exercise. This is not to say that you cannot return back to mom and baby boot camps where the programming is done extremely well, where the coaching is high level, where modifications or substitutions are given based on your specific body and how it is healing. So I do not want to keep you out of exercise at all. I just need us to know that it doesn't mean that we now start exercising at 6 weeks postpartum, like how we were exercising maybe in the second trimester even. Here's what I find really key about this. We often think that we need to wait that full 6 weeks, do no movement exercise other than taking care of baby, which is very physical in itself, but we do no prep work, we do no physical activity, core and pelvic floor rehab, and then we think that that 6-week checkup is now telling us to get back into intense exercise. I see this as we need to back up. We need to actually start, if you want to, if this is something that is an interest to you, start doing some more structured breathing exercises, core and pelvic floor rehab type stuff, some basic strength training, which we'll get into more in a second, even before we get to that 6-week checkup. I think this might be one of the most confusing points of postpartum return to exercise, is that you can start doing stuff physically with your body that resembles exercise and strength training before you even get to that 6-week appointment, if you are feeling up to it and if you are feeling okay in the healing and recovery process your body is going through. So for example, my mamas into pregnancy and beyond, they start way before that 6-week checkup, usually, again, if they want to. So 2-3 weeks postpartum, they're getting back into our Core Plus Flow Restore program, which is our postpartum recovery, basically a little structured mini 8-week program. They're getting into that at 2-3 weeks postpartum. Vaginal birth or C-section recovery. So C-section recovery, they're getting back into it when they feel comfortable lying flat on their back and lying on both sides. Vaginal birth, where they feel like the pelvic floor, the perineum has healed quite well. They're not actively having pain in that region. The stitches are healing well, that sort of thing. So we do not have to wait a full 6 weeks before we start doing things like clamshells, glute bridges, some breathing drills, body weight squats, maybe some band pulls and rows with the upper body. Those things can make their way back in sooner if you want them to. The loading is very light. This is rehab exercise, but just know that you do not have to be sedentary for 6 weeks. I say sedentary with a grain of salt, of course, because momming in no way is sedentary. But again, if you are someone who likes fitnessy activities, you want to get back into strength training. Oh, hang on, my heater just turned on. Okay, we're back. So if you are someone who wants to get back into a more structured strength training or fitness program, you can start doing stuff before you get to that 6-week mark. All things considered, of course, with how your body is feeling. All right, so we know that that 6-week checkup with your healthcare provider is not necessarily reflective of the amount your body has healed or the healing that is still to come. It is not necessarily reflective of how your core and pelvic floor are functioning. I know that people often tell me that their, say, OB assess them for pelvic organ prolapse or diastasis recti. Even still, in those cases, I really highly recommend that you see a pelvic health physiotherapist, because their internal assessment, their diastasis recti assessment, their pelvic organ prolapse, their pelvic floor muscle function assessment is just so thorough. Really, for me, that is the gold standard. I feel so much more at ease when I know a client has seen a pelvic health physio postpartum. Around after that 6-week mark, we just get so much more information. Pelvic health physios, women's health physios, pelvic floor physios, these things really all mean the same most of the time. They are just so highly trained in the pelvic floor and the core. It is really their job to help assess you postpartum and then help you and direct you back into those more intense fitness activities that you might want to participate in. Okay, are we good so far? Any questions? Agree? All making sense? So here is another thing that can be tricky about that checkup with a general healthcare provider is that they might tell you you are ready to return to exercise, but then there are no progressive guidelines given. So they might tell you, yes, go ahead, you can start running whenever you want to. You can start lifting weights again when you want to. But often women just feel stuck and they feel confused and they literally truly don't know how to even get back in. Often what might happen is that they get back in too hard, too fast, and then we wind up with some aches and pains and potential issues happening to the core and pelvic floor. And not just the core and pelvic floor. Here's where we also need to take this conversation to general health, your whole health in your life, in your body, as a woman, as a mother. We need to start considering all these other factors that are affecting your health that aren't simply core and pelvic floor related. So I'm talking about mental, emotional health, how your family life is feeling. Are you sleeping? How stressed are you? Are you doing activities to help lower your stress? Are you eating enough? There's just so many considerations we need to take into account. Sometimes when we get back into hard, intense exercise very soon postpartum, it can just ramp up the stress in other areas of your life as well. Okay, I think that might be all the big things that I wanted to talk about. Main things I want you to know. Postpartum, go for that 6-week checkup. Absolutely, that's an important thing to do. But I would say as important or even sometimes more important is to book in with a pelvic health physio if you possibly can. If there is someone in your area, if there's someone that you connect with online who you know does and specializes in prenatal and postnatal fitness training, and you want to get back into a more structured routine, it might be worth reaching out to them to see maybe if you have some questions, what kind of services they offer. Someone that you know who can provide you with guidance and a plan to take the guesswork out of it. That's something that our To Pregnancy and Beyond mamas say all the time, is just they like having the plan. They don't want to have to think. They just want to see their workouts, print them out, go through, check off the boxes, and they feel confident and comfortable and safe doing that. Know that you can get back to exercise, back to movement before that 6-week mark, but it's going to look very much rehab-y based. It might look like a little bit of strength training. For example, I got back to strength training workouts at 4 weeks post C-section. Again, very rehab-based, body weight, resistance band type training. It doesn't look like mom and baby boot camp. I'll tell you that much. It did feel so good to move my body in ways that resembled strength training though. That's what I love to do. That makes me feel really good in my body. Okay, so you can absolutely return sooner to exercise than that 6-week mark if you're feeling up to it and if you want to. And just know that when you do get that go ahead to get back to exercise, if you do go to that 6-week appointment with your healthcare provider, know that they mean a progressive, slow and steady return to more intense exercise. This is not the go ahead to possibly get back into running, possibly to get back into lifting all the weights again. We really need to take our time, develop a solid foundation of health and core and pelvic floor function before going back to all that stuff. And of course, we need to get the diastasis assessed, see what's happening there, just to be sure that things are healing and are on the road to recovery, maybe even recovered at that point, and get assessed for pelvic organ prolapse to see how things are going in that regard too. I think that's it. Do you have any questions? I don't think I see any coming in. Quick chat while we're here. You might have seen it today, but we are in a 2-year anniversary sale for To Pregnancy and Beyond. So this marks 2 years of our coaching program for prenatal and postnatal strength training. I am giving away 15-minute private coaching calls with me to the first 15 moms who register for a 6-month membership. I think we're down to 8 or 9 being left still. I'll have to check registration again. But that offer is valid until Friday night at midnight Eastern. So if you are someone who is pregnant, likes strength training, you are a mom, you want a plan to follow that you do not have to think hard about, you're in that early postpartum stage and you're not sure how to return to exercise, To Pregnancy and Beyond might be a solid option for you. I will link to topregnancyandbeyond.com in the comments so you can see all the details. Okay, so that is our chat on the 6-week checkup. Do your due diligence, see if you can find a pelvic health physio in your area. Also, if you ever need help finding someone, please do let me know and I'd be more than happy to assist you in any way. All right, friends, that is it for tonight. On Thursday, I will be sure to get the time to you in advance, but on Thursday, I'll be on live again. We're gonna talk about how we return to running post-pregnancy in a appropriate for a post-pregnant body sort of way. And I'll give you a little hint. For me, this does not look like 2 minutes of running, 1 minute of walking. It doesn't look like that type of training plan. I'll give you more of the details on Thursday though, okay? I will see you then. Have a good evening.